are watching Channel Adrian TV.
Yo, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, X, welcome to another sneaker review video for the Air Jordan 6 Reverse Infrared. Before we get started with the video, let's go with the shoes on the table. Now, this is the first video you're seeing of mine. What I like to do is put shoes on the table that I either reviewed last or have a correlation with the shoe that I'm about to review on. First, in the middle of the table, you do see the Nike Air Diamond Turf 2s. I recently just did a review on that. I'll leave a link in the description. You see a few 6s on my table. On my left, you see the Olympic 6s, which came out last year. And a few years ago, on my right, you see the Oreo 6s, which if I'm not mistaken are about to come out again this year. Of course, the correlation is all three of these shoes on the table right now are 6s, but the reason I wanted these shoes on the table because it deals with the sizing of this shoe, and I'll go ahead and get right into it. Normally I wear a size 11, but for some reason this shoe felt longer than previous 6s, so I had to go down a size because these Oreo 6s that were from a few years ago, this is the actual size 11, and this Olympic 6 that came out last year is a size 10.5. And y'all, I am a wide footer, so in length my foot is 10 inches and 5/8, and in width my feet are 4 inches and 3/8. The reason I say this is because we see all these sneaker YouTubers talk about their sizing, but that's a sizing to their foot. So what I like to do is give you my measurements of my foot, which I just did. So if you haven't bought this shoe and don't know which one to wear, go off my measurements and then you could go from there. I had to go down half a size. A 10.5 fits me well. 11 was way too long and way too big. But y'all, before we get to the shoes, let's go over the box. This is based off the sample shoe that you would see in a lot of magazines, Eastbay magazines. And the reason the Salesman goes along with the reverse infrared name for this shoe is because these are sample shoes that they will give the salesman to go to people's stores to get people to purchase them, which is why on the tag you do see the seller side and vendor side, but I'll get into that later. This box resembles a sample box. A lot of sample boxes will be in this kind of cardboard type box. You'll see the red Jumpman in the middle, and the label says Air Jordan 6 Retro, black, light crimson, 10.5. And you'll have Nike Air on the side of the box and Air Jordan at the bottom of the box. Then when you open the box, you'll see a black label on the top of the box, and it pretty much tells you the date, which would be October 1st, 99, colorway black infrared, style Air Jordan 6-SS. Those are code names to what you would see on samples because we all know certain items, all items from stores have a certain UPC number or item number they're described by in their database, which I think this overall presentation of this box is dope by Jordan Brand because this is what I feel most people wanted with a lot of the older retros, a newer story. On the top of the box, you do see the lot number, and on the bottom of the box, you'll see the red box in the right hand corner, and you'll also see that green sticker. And when you open it up, of course, you'll get the garbage bag paper and the regular white paper. And now we have the shoe, which in person, y'all, I think this is a dope shoe. A lot of people may not like it because it's not the actual infrared, but overall, I think this shoe was well done. I like the red, and I especially like how it pops with the Nike Air on the back. But before I get ahead of myself describing the shoe, let's talk about the history of the shoe. The Air Jordan 6 debuted in 1991. It was designed by Tinker Hatfield, and finally in the finals when they played Magic and MJ got his first ring. And his averages for those playoffs were 31.2 points, 6.6 rebounds, 11.4 assists, 2.8 steals, and 55% field goal shooting. And a lot of people remember during that playoffs, that famous highlight of him against the Lakers when Jordan was gonna go for a dunk, but in midair switch hands and did a layup. Now let's talk about the materials and the actual shoe itself. The shoe is synthetic nubuck, which to the touch, it has a good feel to it. It's very smooth, not rough when you rub your fingers around the shoe. Let's start at the body of the shoe, which most people really don't know. It does show an M and J. And then on the other side, it does show a 2 and 3. A little fun fact if you didn't know that. Once you get to the body of the shoe, you do see the perforated holes on the side of the shoe. And when you get to the tongue of the shoe, it is a neoprene type tongue with regular nylon laces. And then when you get to the middle of the tongue, you do see the shoe shroud that has the jump band to where you can open it and close it if you want to put over your lace lock. But me personally, I like to have my lace lock showing. And once you look at the lace lock, it has the Jumpman on one side and a Nike on the other side. And at the tongue, you have the 2 holes at the very top of the tongue, and it does say Air Jordan at the top. But since we're at the top of the shoe, let's go with the sock liner. Y'all know I do love it when they use a dark sock liner, any other color than white, because we all know unless you're wearing fresh white socks every time, the sock liner will get dirty. To go along with the theme of the shoe, it says property of, not for resale. And since we're by the sock liner, let's go ahead with the production date. It was July 10th, 2025 to October 11th, 2025. Now let's go to the back of the shoe. You will see the Nike Air in red, which I do think is the dopest part. And above that, you do see the spoiler, which represents Michael's favorite car, which was his Porsche. Before we get to the sole of the shoe, let's go to the midsole. You do see the visible air bubble on the heel. And you see the reason they call it the reverse infrared is because the infrareds are switched. Because normally you wouldn't see this much infrared on the outside. You'll see a little bit more on the inside, but this year they reversed it. And that's why you may have heard people call these the reverse infrareds. Now, even though it's reversed, it's still a little bit more red than the original, but me personally, I like it. And finally, we get to the sole of the shoe. You do see the translucent parts of the sole, which towards the midfoot and the bottom of the shoe. You have the red Jumpman in the middle, and then at the very top, you'll see semi-perforated holes for traction at the very top. Now, as far as the cushioning, there is an encapsulated air sole unit in the forefoot, and like I said earlier, there is a visible air in the heel, and it does have a polyurethane midsole. But as far as the soles inside the shoe, it is a dream cell. The difference between these, which I do know a lot of people don't like, is it doesn't have the 3M. Now, me personally, I don't care if it has a 3M or not. Like I said, I love these shoes, and it's been a while since I had them. I wanted to save the tag for last. On the Salesman side, it'll say the product request, it'll say the date, the model name, the model offering, the product line, the seasonal year. In other words, this is what the Salesman side has to use for certain codes. And remember, this is a Salesman sample shoe, so they would take this shoe to different type of stores that would persuade the store owners to purchase this shoe to put it in their store. And before I forget, you will get a black insole that does says Nike Air in that red or light crimson, which they labeled it on the box. And y'all, that's the shoe. Having these shoes again in my collection, it brings back memories. I can remember Kanye wearing these all the time, seeing Kevin Hart, seeing a lot of the celebrities wearing these shoes. And one thing I like to do is I like to go back in time when these shoes were last retroed and talk about what was going on in pop culture, regardless if it's fashion, movies, or music. To go off this theme, since this is a sales sample from 1999, let's go back to 1999. In 1999, we have movies Star Wars Episode 1, The Sixth Sense, The Wood, Life with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence. Music, we had Jay-Z, Hard Knock Life, TLC, No Scrubs. And one song that I know, if you just hear the first seconds of the song, I don't care if you're black, white, bougie, preppy, hood, whatever party you're at, once you hear this beat, I know I had to stop it early because I don't want to get copyrighted on this video. 1999 was a dope year in music, movies, and even though it took us all this time to finally get these shoes and they didn't come out in 1999, if these shoes would have came out in 1999, I think it would have been a hit as well. But for all of you who did get the shoes, are they sitting where you're at? And did you pick up the Air Jordan 6 reverse infrared? And what do you think about these shoes? Y'all let me know what you think. Remember, if you want sneaker reviews, morning motivation, after workout thoughts, Sunday service to give you motivation for the week, police body cams, relationship reactions, anything you could think of, subscribe to channel Adrian TV, and I will see you in the next video.